Hey everyone, welcome out to episode 114 of a Nerd Named Mark podcast. It's me, it's Mark. Um, so much has been going on. I'm literally being stretched like super thin, between work and everything else going on. I'm like, oh man. I was like, I don't even have a main topic, and it's it's kind of rough like right now because like I'm being consistent with everything, but at the same time, I'm kind of like running out of topics every week because there's a lot going on. But then I don't. There's a lot of subject matter that I don't want to talk about. It's something that I don't want to. Is not on brand, so to speak. But I figured with all the stuff I've been watching, so I'm gonna talk a little bit towards the end about just some once again, video game and comics transitioning to other forms of media, mainly TV shows and movies, because I watched a couple more movies and shows that hate their source material, and some that actually did it well. But for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see I have Pokemon Unite booted up. Outside of content creating, I've been upgrading a lot of my equipment. I brought up before, I did upgrade my capture card. I finally got a proper USB 3.0 hub. I'm getting, I got the other shelf finally done. Started putting my Hero McFarlane toy figures on display. Just rounding out some of my collections, and starting to put stuff more on display. That's actually been the main focus of a lot of my time lately, has just been, hey, let me get some more stuff on display. Let me chip away at my backlog of Gunpla kits. And yeah, it's been, but I'm working over 40 hours a week now, on top of everything else. Plus, you factor in recording, editing, putting stuff on social media. I also do some edits and stuff for some other people who just aren't, they're not the best at their editing for their audio and video, so I help them out while also showing and teaching them in Discord video editing, audio editing. I do plan on, and it's kind of funny like doing that stuff. I'm like, man, if it wasn't so oversaturated, I would be doing videos about your editing styles and how I do things, because I'm self-taught completely. Everything I've researched, learned, read books, watched tutorials, did those online courses. Everything I do, I self-taught to an extent. But a lot of good, cool collectibles that I picked up this week. I haven't got my comics yet because of my work schedule. I am going to probably be going over the weekend to get my comics and, maybe a little toy haul, but I did get some stuff delivered. So I got some other stuff I didn't put in the video last time. I did find my Converge Motion Ultraman figures last weekend. I picked up 3 because they had duplicates, but they didn't have the other ones. I'm gonna have to go back and try and find the rest, because I think all in together there were 7 total. So I got 3. I got to get the other 4. So I got Ultraman Trigger Dark type. I got Ultraman Jeed, and then I had to get Ultraman Belial because Belial is one of my favorites. Suit design and everything in general. I did also pick up the Sylveon V-Tin for Pokemon TCG. Yes, I do dabble still in physical Pokemon cards. I still play Pokemon TCG online. I still enjoy it. It's just everything that was happening with scalpers and this and that made it so hard for me to find cards that from a physical card deck standpoint, I have nothing viable for competitions. Online though, because there's the trading system and everything else, I'm good in that department. Like, I have a couple meta decks. I have my trolling decks just for fun. If I want to ever stream again, I can troll with Phalix V and stuff like that. But mainly, I'm a huge Evolution fan. Sylveon is my favorite. Before that, it was Espeon. I actually was toying around with the idea, and I talked to a tattoo artist in the DMs about it. I am possibly gonna get actually a Sylveon tattoo at some point, and I'm like, yeah, it'll definitely stand out because most of my tattoos are just black and shading, and anything that is color is usually like my comic book related ones. Like my Green Lantern ones have like green and like yellow shading, like gradient to them. And I don't usually get color tattoos, but I was like, if I'm gonna get a full-fledged, actual, vibrant, pastel, colorful tattoo, I want it to be Sylveon. And for those of you watching, obviously I have Pokemon Unite up. Espeon dropped, and I've been having a lot of fun playing as Espeon. There wasn't really a learning curve because I'm used to playing like that mage range type, which really focuses on special attack. So, I do play a Sylveon, obviously. Cinderace is less of that and more just attack damage because you're going to auto attack more than anything. I did start picking up Duraludon and learning that Pokemon as well, trying to just be well rounded. I am on the road to Master Rank. I am Ultra 2 right now, so I'm getting there. I may start streaming either on YouTube or Twitch my journey to Master Rank now that I have everything all set up, because as I talked about before, my main thing was I wanted to really focus, like I focus on one project at a time before I kind of start to really put all my eggs. I don't put all my eggs in one basket. So like I said before, when I started the podcast, I mean, my main focus was podcast. Everything else was put on the back burner and casual, like streaming diminished. I was like, let me focus on this podcast. Now that I had the podcast going, everything's going good. We're approaching 3 full years. I was like, you know what? Let me now focus on YouTube. And I've been focusing on YouTube now for about heavily almost a year. I did do some, videos before that, but it was like VODs from streaming and then maybe like a quick little video. I wasn't really putting forth the editing effort. Thumbnails were trash. But now that the podcast is going smoothly, I'm the last, less than a year, almost a year, I've been just focusing heavily on making sure, I'm consistent with YouTube, always trying to evolve that, find new ways to do more content, editing style. And now that I'm comfortable with my pacing and my setup for YouTube, I was like, okay, podcast, check. YouTube, check. Now let me focus on streaming, because a lot of people try and go in everything all at once. And that's the one thing I could always tell everyone, like, don't focus on one thing, get yourself set in that, but keep in the back of your mind these other things you want to do. Do your research, do your due diligence, Then when the main thing you're focusing on now is good and you're comfortable where you're at and can continue it, but still evolving it, now start adding another thing in. Adding another thing, like but you don't want to always stay just on one thing. Like I tell everyone, especially my friends who are Twitch streamers, I was just like, or YouTube streamers or Facebook gaming, people who are just strictly streamers, and they're like, oh, I'm comfortable with my numbers and stuff. I'm like, well, you still have to use social media. Social media is always going to be there. That's not the case. But I'm like, well, you don't want to rely just on streaming. Like your VODs, you're entertaining. Why aren't your VODs? Why aren't you clipping stuff and putting it on YouTube? Or TikTok or Instagram? Or why aren't you, these things you're telling me and talking about, you're not even talking about it. Like, why don't you do a video series? Why don't you do a podcast? I think right now in 2022, it's so easy to go into other platforms and have a presence where you don't need to just be on one, and that's like your spot. You want to have that backup. Like I tell everyone, especially people who want to ultimately be monetized and make money from it. And yes, I tell everyone, anyone who says money is a motivating factor, it's there. Okay, like I have my career. Okay, I have my money, but would I like to have some extra income brought to me from a podcast or YouTube or streaming? Of course, who doesn't? Like, but if you go in and your number one thing is like, I'm gonna do this because I want to make money, and you quit your job, you get all this equipment, and you just start doing it, you're not going to get a return on investment. You never stop your guaranteed money on what if money. And so I told him, I was like, you should be It's 2020. It's so easy. Like the apps. There's so many different apps. There's so many different editing software. There's so many different avenues. You should be branching out. That's one of the things I wish I did sooner. But you know, hey, I've been podcasting, at least this podcast, since 2019. Obviously, I've been podcasting since around like 2009, 2010. Um, you know, especially a lot of guest spots. Like I found my Google, like all my stuff when I was going through things, because I keep everything like on thumb drives and Google Docs and stuff like that. I found like a list of like every podcast I was a guest on, and I was like, wow, I was on a lot of podcasts for when I was just a video game journalist. Like I was being brought on a lot to talk about games, to talk about news, my opinions, this and that. Because yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for since 2006, you know. So I mean, if we're real, I've been doing it since 2004, because I used to do a radio show slash podcast with a friend of mine about freaking MMOs, basically World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 11. That's what we started doing, and that kind of is what dipped my toes in everything. And it wasn't a podcast back then. We did it like via IRC chat. Like that's how old school it was. And yeah, that's so. Point being, now I feel like with my balance and everything else going on, I'm able to now dip my toes in another platform, another way of creating content, which is going to be streaming. I have not decided if it's going to be Twitch or YouTube. Twitch, I am a Twitch affiliate. You know, I feel bad because, like, luckily I told everyone who subbed, please unsubscribe. Like, I'm not streaming. Don't waste your sub on me. I gave them recommendations for people that either I subscribe to or I'm friends with. Like, go check them out. They're very similar with what they play. They're great. Go check them out. Don't waste your Prime sub on me. Like, I'm appreciative of it, obviously, but it's like I can't deliver a streaming content experience to you. And like, that's what you do. You sub because you want to support someone. You want to support their content. If I'm not making content on that platform, I don't want your Twitch Prime sub, because one, I'll feel like I have to stream, and I don't want to feel like I have to do anything. I don't want to have that pressure of, okay, I have, you know, 15 subscribers on Twitch. I feel bad, like that's their money. I got to jump on and stream and give them something. No, I tell them, hey, respectfully, go check these out. These are great content creators. I'm in their streams all the time, hanging out and chatting. Go check them out. Like, I will be streaming at some point, but you know, you've been subbed for like 4 months. I haven't streamed in like 2. I feel bad. Please don't. Like, you know, and they always get like kind of like, oh no, it's no problem. And I'm like, no, I get weird about it, not them. Like, I'm always still to the point when, you know, people are subscribed. When I get the notification someone subscribed to YouTube, or I get a review for the podcast, or I get an email, I'm still like, oh, like I see the numbers. I know how many people are, you know, listening to the podcast. I know how people are watching my YouTube videos. But when I get messages, I'm like, it's still just like kind of was weird, because it's like I'm not that type of people. If I listen to podcasts, like I'll do like the one Apple review, because you can only do one, and I'm like, okay. But then, you know, I'll get more like feedback, and I'm like, oh, I forget. I see how many people are listening to this, but I forget that like it's not bots, it's actual people listening and giving feedback. And I'm always like, oh, thanks for taking the time out of your day to be like, hey, Mark, you talked about this on there. What are your thoughts on this? Or, hey, you're playing this game. What's your username? I want to play. Let's play together. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, especially big during the Diablo 3, like earlier in the podcast when I was playing Diablo 3 a lot and I was talking about all the runs and everything. Like, the amount of people I was carrying and running through that game, like, but it was a lot of fun. Like, we were having a Discord chat and just having a good old time. And it was great. And that's why I kind of like and I hate using it, the fan interaction, because I'm like, I don't like the idea that I have people who are quote unquote fans. I hate that terminology so much, because it's like I have friends who do podcasts who I've been on their podcasts and listeners and that, and I'm like, I'm a fan of the show, but that's my friend. Like, you know, I'm like, am I a fan? Like, the terminology of fan has always felt kind of like not counterproductive, but if I was to tell a bunch of people, hey, look at all these fans I have, I'm like, I just feel like gross and almost like I'm demeaning them, like they're not people I interact with. Like, because I interact with almost everyone who sends me messages, emails, and this and that about the podcast. I interact with every single one, and I have most of them added on Discord or on, you know, the Switch, and like they have become friends. But that's a lot of topics. So let's see, what else did I get? Oh, I got my next Soto set, buy 7 for Revice. This is, I've already built 2. I built Jack Revice, and then I built the Thunder Gale. Very detailed, very good. I still have to actually work on my showcase video. Oh no, I knocked him over. Going over the 6th wave, because yeah, I just haven't had time. And then, so I talked about it last year. There's a Vital Bracelet for Digimon, you know, and I got the new upgraded version, and this one's for Kamen Rider. So I got the set with the Kyuga set, and then I picked up the 01 and XA dim card sets. I got these via Amazon Japan, so they're kind of expensive in general if you want to find them on, like, you know, Amazon US and third-party sellers and this and that. But on Amazon Japan, there was a sale. The bracelet itself was like 1,600 yen, which is like, you know, about 14 to 16, $15. And then the dim card sets were like 700 yen each, which is about $6. So I was like, you know what? Buy it. I wanted it. It's something I've been, you know, very sought after for me. And yeah, so I was like, you know what? Why not? Let's get it finally. I actually destroyed my Apple Watch, and I was like, it was gonna be so expensive to get like the screen fixed. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna wait for the new one to come out in the fall, and I'll just pick up a new one. I mean, I enjoyed the Apple Watch for what it, you know, everything functionality of it. Like, it was really good keeping track of, you know, burning calories, my workouts, and everything else. But I was like, you know what? Like, one less overly obnoxious technology device that's attached to me at all times is fine. You know, let's cut back on the tech, you know. And I'm trying to think. I picked up stuff, like, it's one of those things where it's like, because of the free comic book day episode and this and that, like, I picked up some stuff since then, and I'm trying to like literally figure out what I picked up, because, but it's all blur, because I buy, like, it's not that I buy a lot of stuff, it's just that I buy so much stuff of similar genres. So like, I buy a lot of Kamen Rider stuff, I buy a lot of Ultraman stuff, Digimon, horror related things, you know, video games. So it's kind of tough to keep track of and remember what I buy, or at least when I bought it, because like, I'm like, did I just buy those? Did I buy those this week, or do I have the box out in front of me because I'm gonna put it on display today? I was like, no, I think I bought that. I'm like, no, I didn't buy that today. It's becoming a problem. But I do like how my setups are finally coming along. Once I have the rest of the stuff up on display and finished, I will finally install all my lights for the shelves, because, you know, even in certain, you know, you can see the stuff, it's very clear what's on there, but I kind of like the idea of having, I'm addicted to Govee in all their different lights. I have the light strips, I have the light bars I have to put up on the wall over here by the TV still, and it's kind of cool because they have like little L connectors, so you can make them all different little shapes and this and that. So I got to put that up still. But Govee is like my favorite company for that stuff, especially when you link it with Lumia streaming. So basically, you can have all your lights and everything set to events and chat commands and this and that. And like, so if someone like subscribes on Twitch, I can have, you know, everything light up purple and blink. Or if someone does a certain action when, you know, you earn that currency by watching, that can affect the lights too. I have it set up also. I can have it set up for YouTube also, so if someone subscribes or super chats, it'll blink red for YouTube. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with Govee lights and Lumia Stream. But it's not just the Govee ones, you can use like the Philip ones and all, and Nano Leaf and this and that. I just personally, from a preference standpoint, love Govee, because I've had LED strips of theirs for over a year that are still bright as if I just bought them and installed them, whereas I bought in some from other competitors that after like 3 or 4 months they either stop working or they just don't look as good. And also, for those of you watching, really quick sidebar, that Dead by Daylight poster is pissing me off so much, because it's, before it was in a good spot, but now that I have the other shelf, I'm realizing how off-centered it is. And I'm just like, I'm just staring at it, and it's slightly crooked, and I'm like, because I had to take it down, and I put it back up, and I just realized it's completely off centered and not even, and it's driving me insane. I hate looking at it so much. But yeah, it's I just want to get my setup like nice and like where I want it. Like I tell everyone, especially friends, like, and who buy a lot of, they're buying equipment, they're getting all their setup stuff, and then they want to start content creating. I'm like, just start with what you have. I started with an auxiliary mic, low quality, like a $13 mic from Amazon, and my yoga, and then I upgraded to the snowball. And then, this one snowball broke, and I'm like, well, I can't afford a better mic. So while it was broken, I was literally using this headset right now that I'm wearing with the microphone on it. Then I was like, all right, now let's, eventually I bought another snowball. And then I was like, all right, it didn't break, but I was just tired of how much editing I had to do for the audio. So then I was like, you know what? Let me buy this HyperX Quadcast. And then I actually gave the snowball to a friend of mine who wanted to start podcasting, and he's loving it. And he's like, man, I'm thinking about upgrading. I'm like, hey, you might as well. Like, that's what I did. You utilize what you got. And now, so I'm just, now that, like, I have everything going now, like every month, every couple weeks or so, I'm buying one little piece of equipment. I'm not trying to like overspend. I'm not trying to like, count my chickens before they hatch. That's why I finally got my one panel light. I haven't installed the second one yet because I don't have a spot for it over here, because I want one over here, but I don't have that installed yet. I just hate the camera angle because it makes my forehead look huge, and I'm like, my forehead is not this huge. I swear, it's not. And it's not this shiny either. I got my diffuser for the light freaking broke, and now I'm like, it's gonna make me glossy. But yeah, so it's enough ranting and rambling about random stuff and content creating. So I watched a lot of stuff this week. I've been forcing myself because the Halo TV series just ended season 1 with episode 9. I'm deeply disappointed. I'm not going to say I hate the show or it's trash, because I know there's people who might enjoy it, and everyone's entitled to their opinion of the show. Obviously, I've seen the feedback on social media. There are a lot of people who actually like it, and I'm like, good for you. You should. Who am I to say that you're wrong for liking something, But I've been trying to force myself to freaking watch it, and I got up to episode 6, and I know there's only 3 more episodes, so I'm just like, just sit down, watch it, and I'm like, I don't wanna. Oh crap, that's what it is. I bought manga. I bought a lot of manga, and I can't find it. I can't find it right now because everything's a mess. Cause I'm working on my manga bookshelf. So I did pick up some more Chainsaw Man, Spy Family, the new Death Note little short stories that came out, Sailor Moon manga, and I'm still slowly hunting all the Yokai Watch manga. It's so sporadic how to find it, because like I think there's only like 18 volumes, but it's taken them like a decade to put all these out. So I'm still trying to finish the Yokai, because I finished Ultraman manga, and I'm almost done finishing all the Demon Slayer manga. I need about 6 or 7 more volumes, and I have all those, which is cool. And then yeah, I'll just finish the Halo stuff, then I'll go on other stuff I'm watching. But yeah, I'm just trying to force myself to like finish Halo, and it's been so difficult. Like, it is not even like shutting off the Halo side of like knowledge and my love of Halo. It's honestly the fact that it's just, I don't like the writing, I don't like the story, I don't like a lot of the choices they're making. I mean, listen, you know what? I said my piece about Master Chief being double cheeked up. That happened. But I don't know, there's just something off about the way the show is presenting Master Chief. And I think it should be this grandiose, so like this larger than life Spartan, this character, this hero, this myth, this legendary character. And they've humanized him so much, and the vulnerability and this and that. I'm like, no, this is not Master Chief. Everyone has that side to them, but like Master Chief is supposed to be this super soldier, this destructive force that's supposed to just to covenant fear and call, you know, the devil or a demon, you know, and I don't get that from how Master Chief is presented. And but on the lighter side of things, I did, because it is available now on Blu-ray, I picked up Uncharted, and I did see it previously, but I was like, you know what, I do want to see it again just to like fully digest everything. And I will say I really enjoyed Uncharted. I'm gonna do a review of it because I think a lot of the reviews of it were really negative, and I think it was people nitpicking or expecting the video game, and I'm just like, no, like I liked it. I liked Tom Holland as a young Nathan Drake. I think his chemistry with Mark Wahlberg was weird at first, but then on a second viewing, I was like, you know what? I kind of digged it. I get what they were doing, and I really hope it becomes a franchise. I'm tired of these like Sony and Ubisoft and all these companies making one movie and then being like, oh well, it didn't make $1 billion like Avengers did, so let's not do a sequel. It's like, come on now. Doom got a sequel down the road with Doom Annihilate, so it's like obviously these other ones should get a sequel. I mean, Silent Hill got a sequel also, and Resident Evil somehow kept going, but they were making money, and those movies weren't for us anyways, like fans I should say. But Uncharted I think would do really good from a second film. I think it would make a good trilogy, especially with the direction it was going towards the end of it. I do think, and I'm not gonna, like, my thing is I'm not gonna spoil anything in any of these in the podcast episodes. I don't spoil anything unless I say so. So I'm not gonna spoil it because this isn't a review episode or a special episode. I will be doing an Uncharted one because I think it's worth watching. Trust me. I enjoyed it a lot. And then, oh, what else was I watching? I keep like going back and watching a lot. Oh, Troma. Okay, you guys. Okay, all right. Troma has an app. Yes, Troma Films. You know, Toxic Avenger. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm mad because it's only on phone, tablets, and like Roku. I wish it was on Xbox or PlayStation. I wish so much because I have a Roku. Luckily, I have a 4K Roku, so I hooked that up to the TV. But man, like I know a lot of people who don't have Rokus and have consoles, and they don't want to just watch on their like phone or computer. They want to. The Troma app is so good. It's so good. I love it so much because I'm a big fan of the B horror films and Troma in general. Like I remember Toxic Avenger when I was a kid watching. Like I watched the cartoon series, and then I found the movie on VHS at a movie rental place, the same place that whenever I talked about movies in the past of me renting that I should not have been able to rent at a young age of like 12, and I would watch Toxic Avenger. Was it like Sergeant Kabuki, Police, like what, like the T-Rex one? Like I watched so many. Like I love Troma. It's one of my favorite companies. It was the point where at one point when I was in college and one of my electives, I took film appreciation and study, which I've talked about in the past, doing stuff like that. I like wanted to actually make movies for Troma. Like if I wasn't gonna get like a deal to do like a video game adaptation, because like I still have my treatment for the Mega Man movie / series that I would love to do. But now with everything going on now, people could crowdfund and do stuff for YouTube as like fan films, and people like Stephen Ford with Ascenders doing like phenomenal with these shorts he's doing. And I was like, well, if I had a little bit of a budget, better camera setup and this and that, like prop and like locate, like I would start doing stuff like this because man, like I would love to do a Troma film so much. Like they're just great. And I think the fact that they have an app now, a streaming service app, trust me, like go download the Troma app, do your free trial, sign up, give them your money. It has everything. It even has the freaking Toxic Avenger animated series. It has so much good, delicious stuff on there. You won't regret it. Go download that Troma app now, sign up. It's good. It's delicious. And it's basically my most used streaming service app since I downloaded it and signed up about 5 or 6 days ago. I've just been like glued to that app on my breaks at work, laying in bed, like outside, like just Troma app is open. But yeah, it's so good. Oh my god. And other than that, I'm trying to think, what else did we watch? I watched Old again, the M. Night Shyamalan film. Uh, Second, I think this is my second or third viewing of it. I'm a huge M. Night Shyamalan fan. I really am. I enjoy a majority of his films. Old was very different, but it still had some of his tropes. I think for me, like what missed the mark was the fact that it just didn't. There's some plot issues with this and that weren't fleshed out enough to really explain why or how, but still really entertaining film. I watched Moonfall again. That movie's so ridiculous. I need a sequel to that. If I don't get a sequel to Moonfall, like I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, give that director the money. Let them do 2 or 3 more. Like, I want Moonfall 2 and Moonfall 3. It's set up, and it's just, we need those just ridiculously fun and outlandish movies. And that's one of the actual things I was talking to a friend of mine about with Marvel. So the She-Hulk trailer dropped, and a lot of people were like, what, like why, like they made it very comedy, late to 90s early 2000s, like sitcom comedy, like Ally McBeal, lawyers and this and that. And I was just like, well, you notice the humor has been interjected a lot in Marvel, and I chalk it up to, well, we did have some humor in the first 3 phases of Marvel. I think because everything was so doom and gloom and very serious with the whole Thanos and Endgame and Infinity Wars, I think they pushed so much of the humor to the side. Outside of things like Guardians obviously had the humor there, but you did have some humor in Iron Man, and Thor was kind of like that weird humor where it wasn't meant to be like directly funny. And Captain America, wasn't. Those were all serious. And Ant-Man had some humor too. But it's like so many of the stuff. The whole universe was so serious, so dark, but not like Christopher Nolan, like Zack Snyder dark, but like dark as in not a lot of humor. And now I feel like they're making up for it. So like, oh, let's make it more casual. Let's make it more lighthearted. Let's add some more humor into everything, because that's what's going to draw people in. Because you're going to add the humor in the trailers, in the stingers, and get people that way. So I think that's why they're going more like with the jokes. I mean, WandaVision obviously wasn't as serious. Was very serious. Same with Falcon and Winter Soldier. There were their quips and their moments, and Loki was kind of like sarcastic, but it's like it's kind of like they're kind of drawing in more people. But if anything shows, like they're like, I was looking at the Doctor Strange 2 numbers, did great opening weekend, then it started falling off second week, third week, and I'm like, well, everyone rushes to go see them first week just to see them. But with all these streaming services, everyone's like, all right, I saw it once, I'm gonna wait until it's on a streaming service to watch it again. Not a lot of, like, it's not like back even 6 years ago, like you're going to see a movie more than once. I remember, what movie was it? I think Deadpool I saw in theaters like 2 or 3 times. I've seen Lord of the Rings and most of Harry Potter's more than once, especially Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, I saw that so many times in theaters. And I think honestly, it's just mostly, it's like now we have streaming services. We know it's going to be on Disney Plus at some point. And there are still a lot of people who don't. We got comfortable with, HBO Max giving us last year almost every movie that would have been in theaters right on the streaming services. Disney did the whole, hey, buy this for premium access or whatever they called it. But I think, with theaters the way they are, like for me, Doctor Strange, they were playing a movie every 15 minutes on like 7 or 8 plus different, like tons of screens. And it's like, okay. So they didn't make it seem like, yeah, like, oh, it's sold out, I have to go see it tomorrow. I remember having to do that with movies. Like, this is the only time I can go see it. Oh, tickets are sold out, I guess I'll come back tomorrow. And then that's when the movietickets.com website was big, and they had all the things like, oh, don't miss out on seeing your movie, get movietickets.com. And then they had the cool little trailer where someone was like running and being like, oh no, we're gonna miss, it's gonna sell. It's like, no, I got it right here. And then they boom 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 got their tickets. Like, see, I got my tickets. And that's but now they play so many movies on screens, and it's also the fact that there's no competition really, because a lot of people are delaying and pushing their films around so they don't line up with a Marvel film or a DC film or a big movie. And it's like, no, give us some competition, make us choose, like, okay, if hypothetically Jurassic World Dominion, is that the new one? Dominion, yeah, Dominion was coming out the same day as Doctor Strange 2. I can't go see both. It's Friday, about 5 o'clock. And lady's sitting down, like, hey, you want to have dinner or go see a movie? So what do you want to see? I'm like, well, Doctor Strange came out. It's like, yeah, but so did Jurassic World. It's like, good point. What do we see? Can't go see both. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to pick. And it's like, all right, I saw Jurassic World. It's like, well, I already went to the theater. I don't want to go again tomorrow. You're like, all right. So obviously, I'd pick Jurassic World, by the way. I love Jurassic Park and that whole entire franchise. I'm a huge fan of dinosaurs. So I would pick Jurassic Park instantly over Doctor Strange 2. But yeah, it's just the movie industry right now. It's like, I don't see like that urgency of having to see a movie. Like, I saw Doctor Strange because I wanted to avoid spoilers. I'm never going to claim to be like the biggest Doctor Strange fan. I did enjoy a lot of the comics, but not really one of my favorite characters. That's why I was like, no qualms. I just wanted to avoid spoilers. And, my lady wanted to see it because of Scarlet Witch, and I was curious. And I still am sticking to my guns that this was a Scarlet Witch film, not a Doctor Strange film. But, yeah. I'm trying to think what else is going on, what else I've been watching. And, just by the Troma app, and getting ready for a lot of nothing. I actually have a day off, and then I gotta freaking work forever. But just a quick episode. Not every episode is gonna be really long. I mean, just I want to actually jump back into more. Oh, I keep hitting my mic. I gotta get a new mic arm. I broke my mic arm, and now when I lift it up, it lowers on its own because the little tiny bracket kind of like came like off. So I don't know where it went. I don't know where it went. But yeah. This is it for episode 114 of a Nerd Named Mark podcast. You can find the podcast on all podcast listening platforms: Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Podcast Republic, all the good ones. Just type in a Nerd Named Mark wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching on YouTube. If you see right below this video, there's a red subscribe button. Why don't you hit that button and subscribe to the channel? You'll see when more stuff goes live. I'm going to be working on some review stuff, some Pokemon stuff, just a lot of videos. I'm just trying to find time. Like, I'm going to have to go back to my old style where, like, on Sunday, just bulk review for the whole entire week. But I've been so tired after working and then having to go, grocery shop, laundry, run errands. It's like, okay, now I got, like, 3 to 4 hours to relax. Am I going to spend 3 hours recording and then only get an hour to relax? It's like, it's tough. The balance is coming back though. And so, yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, I got more stuff coming up soon. I thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This has been episode 114 of a Nerd Named Mark podcast. My name is Mark, and I'm a nerd.